Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. So today I want to share with you my review of a kit that was sponsored to me by Minerva. In the kit, I received the Simplicity 8014 pattern. It's a dress pattern. It's a shirt dress pattern. And I also received this beautiful cotton sateen parakeet fabric. It is such a beautiful, beautiful fabric to work with. The jelly popcorn fabric come in different fabric contents as well as different colorways. And so I'll make sure that I put a link in the description box below so you could go over to Minerva and see the different jelly popcorn fabrics that they have. They have these jelly popcorn fabrics in cotton sateen as well as viscose challis, and I believe also a linen blend as well. So if you are interested in this particular cotton sateen fabric, I'll put the link to that in the description box below, along with my blog post as well. So I decided to make a variation of view B. So this pattern come in two different groups of sizes. The size that I selected was the group 16 to 24. And again, this came in a kit. Minerva provided all of the notions and things of that nature that I needed for this project. So I got about a little over 4 meters of this beautiful cotton sateen jelly popcorn fabric. It's called Parakeet Jelly Popcorn Cotton Sateen Fabric. And I also received a Kelly green spool of thread, as well as needles, and then I also received the interfacing for the project as well. And they also sent me some shank buttons, but I usually don't use shank buttons when I'm doing shirt dresses or any type of shirts, button-up shirts, unless I'm using like a loop closure. And so I decided not to use the shank buttons, but I tried to make sure that I got buttons that was very, very close in color that they provided for me. So that's kind of the only thing that I did different in terms of like using the different notions and things like that they've sent in the kit. I've only swapped out the buttons because I feel like the flat back head buttons are better for shirt dresses than the shank buttons, in my case anyway, because I'm big busted. So I swapped out those buttons. So I selected the size, the first size that I selected was the size 16, but I noticed that it didn't give me enough coverage for my bust. Now I was supposed to be able to fit that size based on the finished garment measurements, because the finished garment measurements for views A and B for that size 16 is supposed to be 41.5 inches. And so normally I would go with the 41.5 or a 42 or something like that when I'm doing these types of garments, because I need about 2 inches of room for ease. This particular size did not give me that 2 inches of ease. So I'm questioning whether or not that is truly a 41.5 inches. And I did check my measurements to make sure that I wasn't off with my measurements. So I will say be cautious of the size that you choose. So I went up to the next size, which was the 43.5, which is the size 18. And still, it wasn't giving me enough coverage. I graded in between the 18 and the 20, and I did a full bust adjustment. So that's just to give you an idea of how my garment fits on me. I would say that in terms of my bust, I would say that the finished garment measurement is about a 44.5 with my changes. I also shortened the waistline. Now this pattern comes with a short and lengthened line as well as a petite line. So you can raise your garment up to the petite line if you're short in the waist like myself. And so I shortened the garment and raised it up to that petite line, which raised my waistline about 1.25 inches. It still was a little bit long, and so I went back and I shortened it about another 1/2 inch on the short and lengthened line. So in terms of the variations that I chose B, and like I said, this pattern come in 4 different variations. So you can do the long short shirt dress that is the maxi dress length hits around the ankle, and you have a long sleeve, a forward shoulder, you have a collar stand as well as a collar, a front button placket that you're going to attach to both the right and the left side of the garment. You also have bust pockets and also inseam pockets for your skirt, and a band that you can place around your lower sleeve. You have a yoke piece for the back as well. And as I said, your yoke is a forward shoulder. So you do have that forward shoulder design. And then you have bust darts on the side, and you have 2 pleats on the front of the garment that you're going to be putting on the lower edge of your bodice, and 2 pleats in the back as well. But you don't have to do any pleats or darts for your skirt. So that's basically version A and B. Now, with version B, it's showing that you can omit the collar, but you can just add the collar stand. And then also the sleeve, you have an option to do a banded sleeve. And I'll put an image in here so you can see how you can fold that band over and create that band. I decided to go back, and I decided to cut that portion of my sleeve off where you flip the band inward. I decided to cut that portion off and add bias binding. It just felt very restricting around my biceps, even after I did my bicep adjustment. And so I just cut that portion off of it and put bias binding at the lower edge. For my skirt, I chose skirt B. Now, I will say that the original skirt for skirt B, it was right around like a little bit below my knee. And so I wanted it a little bit shorter. And so I shortened it about 2 inches, and now it's above my knee. So that's just to give you some idea of how it sits on me. The regular design, I think it's supposed to be either at your knee or below your knee. I'm not quite for certain because it doesn't show that variation. It doesn't show like a model showing you that variation for view B. So I'm not quite for sure if it's supposed to be below your knee or at your knee. I'm not quite for certain. But for view C and D, these are totally different dresses than A and B. A and B, you have a separate bodice and skirt that you're sewing together. Whereas with views C and D, these are just really long shirt dress options. The bodice and the lower part of the skirt, it's all one piece. You're not doing any sewing of like a bodice to the skirt. It's just a one piece, like a shift dress almost, but it's a shirt dress. And you do have the same options with in terms of like pockets, and you do have darting and things of that nature as well on those 2 views as well. So I really did enjoy this pattern. Let me tell you all the adjustments and modifications that I have made to this pattern. I'm going to get my notes here, and then I will tell you all of the adjustments and modifications that I've made to the pattern. So for the adjustments that I've made, I did a 3/8 of an inch forward shoulder adjustment. So even though the back of the yoke come forward, I found that it was kind of resting a little bit more back on me. And so I brought that forward 3/8 of an inch. I also shortened the waistline, like I said, at the petite shortened line, which was 1 1/4 inch. I also shortened another 1/2 inch, like I said, after I raised it from the shortened, the petite line. I shortened it another about a 1/2 inch, a 1/2 inch to about 5/8 of an inch. And then I shortened the skirt pattern by 2 inches. And that's all I did to the pattern. These are just standard adjustments that I usually make to my garments, minus the skirt. I usually just make those forward shoulder adjustments. I also did a bicep adjustment, as I said before, and I think that bicep adjustment was about 1.5 inches for my bicep adjustment. I will say that the pattern is quite slim fitting, and that's one of the reasons why I did not do the longer sleeve, because the sleeve pattern is very, very slim fitting. you don't have a whole lot of room to work with when you're doing a bicep adjustment. If you do anything over 2 inches for your bicep adjustment, you will risk distorting your sleeve pattern, and you will have to make accommodations to your actual arm side and all of that to accommodate those changes. And so I try not to go over 2 inches for my bicep adjustment. And I noticed that doing the 1.5 to about 2 inch bicep adjustment on this pattern just was not working. As you can see, it's still a little bit form fitting on my sleeve. I would like to have another inch. But like I said before, I would have to go back and readjust the arm side and all of that to get that fit if I want a bigger a bigger sleeve pattern for this. Overall, I thought that the pattern sewed really well. I wouldn't make it again. It wasn't one of my favorite shirt patterns. There were more changes that I had to make than I would like in most of my garments. And so I probably wouldn't make it again. However, it is a decent pattern. It's not too bad. I did the burrito method to put a yoke piece on the inside of my garment so that it's really nice and clean. The instructions does not tell you to do that. Overall, the instructions are pretty well written and you can follow them and get through them. There are a few steps that are missing. I think the waistline, when you're attaching the waistline of the garment, the bodice to the skirt, I think there's a section in that's missing when it comes to the front button placket, as well as for your hem. And so there are a few instruction pieces of information that are missing. However, this is going to be more of an intermediate pattern, and so I kind of understand that. But overall, I really did enjoy it. I made the variation that has the collar stand as well as the collar. Instead of putting a button at the top like you're supposed to, I just put a snap there to snap it in place, just because it's really hard for me when I put buttons up here. It just makes me, it's really uncomfortable to try to get that top button in there. And so I just put snaps on. And so that's what I did with this one. Really great pattern. Love the fabric. The fabric sewed really well. The coloration of this is just so beautiful. It didn't lose any of its color. It pressed really well. It sewed beautifully, did not snag or tear or anything like that. Really, really enjoyed this project. So if you've made this pattern before, let me know. It's an older pattern. If you liked it, I do want to make views C and D. I have not had a chance to make that yet, but I will be glad to give a review of that if I make it as well. So thank you all for tuning into today's video. I hope you liked the pattern review. If you did, please make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. I hope you all have a fabulous sewing week, and I will talk to you all in the next video. Bye.